Hi everyone, and welcome to SolidWorks training again. My name is Sydney from FTC Team 3525, and during this segment I will demonstrate basic navigations, how to put together multiple parts, and how to build a wheel assembly. So, let's get started. So what we're going to start is we're going to open up SolidWorks, make a new file, show you how to save it, how to insert a part, and do some basic screen navigation. So your icon should look like a red cube with an S and a W on it. We're just going to wait for this to load up. Here we go. And to open a new file, you can either click on this page up here, or you can click one right here. Either way, it works the same. So once you click on that, you'll see that there's a part, an assembly, and a drawing option. We're going to click on assembly. If you finish all of these walkthroughs, you can try out some tutorials. Those are pretty helpful. So once you select assembly, click OK. And so now we have entered the plane. You don't really see anything. I can try moving around. There's nothing really to base it off of. It's just an empty space. So you are automatically brought to begin assembly, and we're just going to go browse and open up an axle. I'm trying to find the one that we haven't modified. Here we go. So now you see the axle on your screen, and it moves with your mouse. When you click on the axle, it automatically sets it into the space, and this is going to be the one part that you will not be able to move because it is the reference point. So I'm going to click, and I can't move this. If I click on Move Component and this, I can't move it. This one is locked down and there's nothing I can do to move it. So now that we have a piece that gives us the ability to see movement, now that we have a reference point, you want to zoom in and out. It's one of the most basic functions, and so when you zoom in and out using your scroll wheel, you may find that the out is to scroll forward and back is to scroll in. Cool thing about the zoom in and out feature is when you mouse over something and you zoom into it, you zoom in on that spot. To rotate your part, you can either use the arrow keys, or you can hold down your scroll wheel and you can drag. You may also notice that this little thing here is also rotating with. There's the X, the Y, and the Z axis. It shows you what you are facing in space to give you a sense of direction. If you lose your part, like in this case, I haven't lost a part in a while, but it sometimes happens. Just press the F key on your keyboard and it'll bring you right back to your part. I don't really use side to side. The scroll wheel for zoom in and out and rotating is generally enough for me. But if you do want to know, you hold down the control key and the middle mouse button and you can drag your view around. You can also use the arrow keys by holding down control and using the arrow keys. Your left is your right is your left, your up is your down, and your down is your up. So that can be a little mind-boggling at first. So I'm going to click the save button. And I'm going to name it as example 1. and you may have a different set of units. If you want to change the units that you're working in, and really the units comes more in handy when you're working on parts, but it's still nice to know here as well, is you click on this up here, it's the options menu. You click on document properties, units, and it gives you the option of IPS, the English system, or the metric system. And pretty much you can select what you prefer, or you can customize it if you really want. I'm going to stick with what we have here. Alright. So now we've done all of this. Let's move on. So now we're going to build a basic wheel. We're going to insert these parts here, and I will list them out as I go. Oops. And then I'm going to show you how to use the mate tool, then explain a little bit about an assembly within an assembly. So let's insert more components. To insert components, you come up to this button here, click Browse, and we are going to insert a wheel. Guess I'm gonna have to circle. Or sorry, click on well. Well. Someone can't spell. Then another insert component. Get an axle hub and a gear. So let's see. See, it was right in front of my face the whole time. Here we go. Ah, found it. Awesome. So this should be enough for now. So let's start assembling. The mate tool is what creates relationships between different parts, so that way you can restrict its movement. For example, let's start by putting this wheel on this shaft. By selecting the inside of the wheel and the outside of the shaft, I've lined these two up in concentric. That is the default for this one. You can also select these other ones as well, depending on what you need, but in this case, this is perfectly fine. Now I'm going to hit the check mark, which says to add or finish the mate. And now, if I click and drag on this wheel, I can move it now. It has been restricted, so I can't move this side to side anymore. However, I can still move it this way because that has not been restricted. So why don't we restrict that then? So I'm going to select this end, and because I'm going to put this in alignment with this outer face, I'm going to select that, and it lines these up. So I hit the check mark, and now I can only rotate the wheel. I can't move it anywhere else. So let's finish this up and put this on here. So one thing you may want to note is that you can actually flip the direction of you putting this on. So if I select this and click it here, you notice that this part just went right into the wheel. And that's not possible in real life. So if I click this button here, which is the flip mate alignment, it's going to try and make an alternative way to make this mate still work. So now that I've clicked that button, it shows what I'm looking for this time. So that's what I'm going for. So then I hit the check mark, okay. And at this point, I'm going to show you another helpful mate tool so sometimes you will not be able to see a face that you're working with, even if you rotate it. Like, it's really hard to see that. Yes, I could move it so that way I can see it, but there are instances where you just can't move it into a place where you can see it, and you can't rotate in such a way. So you select the side you can see, and if you right click where you think the face that you're trying to select is, you can click on select other, and when you mouse over these, you notice that different other faces light up. So this is the one we're looking for. It's in a nice pretty orange, or whatever color it may be, depending on your computer. And voila, it is now in alignment. I'm going to line up these holes if I can. But if you've noticed so far, I haven't used the side to side at all yet. It's all zoom in and out, because I can move side to side that way. So before I exit out of mate, you may notice that as I have been creating the mates, they have been showing up here in this mates box. Make sure that you save often, you hit the check mark often, unlike what I just did. So that way, if something does happen, like if you accidentally hit the X or the undo, you don't lose all of these mates at the same time. So I'm going to hit the check mark. And now, if you want to know what happened to those mates, on this tree here, you can see the different parts that you've added. And you can see the mates that you've added under this paper clip, the double paper clip. Alright, so now we have our basic wheel assembly. And let's save what we have. And let's open up a new assembly. So we click on New, Assembly. And because we have our wheel already open, it shows under the Open Documents box, Example 1, which is what we've made. So let us click on a channel. This one looks good. And now this is going to be our starting point. This is now the point of reference. So this one's not going to be able to move anywhere. So now let's insert our wheels. And you notice that now I'm putting an assembly within an assembly. What is nice about this is it allows you to make one assembly and just put it in multiple times rather than building per se 4 different wheels. So let's insert a couple more components. Couple axle bronze bushings. So here's another cool thing that I haven't shown yet is on the insert component, there's even a note under this little message thing in yellow. But if you click on this push pin, it says keep visible. So you can put in multiple parts. So I'm going to put in 2. Once I've put in as many as I want, I'm going to hit OK. And now I am going to go and find a collar. Alright, so now I think I've got all the pieces I need to put this wheel onto this channel. So let's do this. I'm going to just select this one. Well, oh, so if you select a piece or a face that you don't want to mate, you notice that this little box is lit up blue. It means you've selected it. So if you right click on it, you can click on delete and it goes away. You can also clear selections if you have selected more than one, but in this case I only selected one, so there's no problems there. So I'm going to restrict this by selecting this, selecting this. There's multiple ways to completely restrict these. In this case there aren't that many alternatives, but there is more than one way to do a solution. So if you're learning this in a group, it's completely fine. So that's not working. Let's see why. Slide that out here. There we go. I must have selected the wrong face. Check, so don't get too far. I'm going to click on mate again. So sometimes when you get ahead of yourself, you accidentally may click on a piece or a face. You go, oh, oops, I haven't clicked mate yet. It's completely fine to click on the mate button once you have a face selected, but if you notice, there was a little box that also came up. And here you can also select mate, the little paper clip. And it's automatically put in your mate selection box. So as I said earlier, there are multiple ways to do the same thing, and that is really nice. There is even another check and an X over here, if that's your preference. But it's not mine, but that's totally fine. Shift this over. So one more thing before I go about the mate tool. You may have noticed that lock is available for just about every mate I have tried here. Be careful when you use this mate. It has been used as a fix-all by a couple of my teammates before, and it ends up making things worse later on. So what the lock button does is, if I select the lock, and I select a couple faces, this one and this one, and I hit check, my lovely spinning wheel doesn't spin anymore. So what the lock button does is it fixes a part in the middle of space, and it is not allowed to move anymore. However, if your whole thing is not restricted and you move a part using move component, or you accidentally grab and drag, you will have parts flying all over the place because you A, moved a part, and B, you left everything behind that you have locked. So although sometimes it may seem nearly impossible to mate a couple things together, and you may think the best fix-all is to use the lock button, try to find a good way around it before resorting to that so you don't end up making it a mess later on. So I'm going to use Control-Z, undo, because Control-Z is your friend. And see, now it rotates again. If you wanted to redo it, Control-Y. Everyone forgets about that one. But there you have it. An assembly within an assembly. You've put together an assembly. And you now know the basic navigations.